York Comic Con. So excited to be here. This is one of my favorite cons that I get to go to every year, and I'm ecstatic to be the moderator on this panel today. Thank you for joining us for the Frame by Frame Behind the Scenes with Hollywood Visual Storytellers. My name is Marissa Hill, and I am the executive producer as well as the host of ShadeTV. And I'm so excited to be with this extraordinarily talented panel today. So let's jump right into it. Welcome, panelists. So good to see you all here in the lovely state of New York. I loved what we just saw on the TVs just a moment ago. It really just showcases how talented each of you individually is in your own craft. I would love to hear from each of you what really sparked that moment in time or special memory that stands out to you, where that was the pinnacle of you understanding that I'm in the right industry. This is why I do what I do. Let's start with Burton.
I think being acknowledged for your work, I think the first time I got nominated for an Emmy, me and my team, which was pretty special. And it's not always about the awards, but it's always nice to be acknowledged and have that, not just for you, but your whole team. And you see that, and you feel appreciated. And to be nominated from your peers. So that was great.
Be nominated for an Emmy as well, Burton. That is no small feat.
Yes, exactly.
Congratulations
exactly right.
on that.
Thank you.
Would you like to go, Bella?
Is this on? Okay. Well, I think mine was actually I was 17 and I did my first feature in the camera department, and I was trying to figure out if this was my place. And I think I found my people, and I realized that this is what I was made to do, and I always think about that every job I go forward, that I'm so lucky to be in a place that is full of like-minded individuals like me, and every day is a privilege to get to do something I love.
Annette, was there a moment that stands out where you realized you're in the right place? This is for you?
Kind of different story in that it took me a long time to figure out what to do, but once I found editing, I was like, oh my God, I don't feel like I'm working at all. This is amazing. So that was a big plus for me.
Love that. All right, down there, Ralph, Spencer.
Well, I guess for me, it's funny. The accolades or getting noticed for your work is one thing that made me realize this is what I love to do. I come from a musical background, photography, and love of books and novels, and also a computer background. So when I found editing, I realized, wow, I can take everything I love and put it into this one, aspect. And everything just coming together just felt right, and I could just sit here, and no matter how tedious I'll get on a cut or anything like that, once it all comes together, there's a feeling like, okay, I see it on the screen, oh wow, it worked. All that hours I put in, it actually comes together and works.
I love that.
I mean, I'm definitely one of those, knew I was going to be a composer since I was like 10. So sort of working your way up towards that. And then I've thankfully worked with similar people for most of my career. And one of the longest people I've been working with for 15 years. And we met first day of uni. And we've been working together ever since. And the first short film that we did was the first day of university, and we just knew. When I knew, this is the people, this is the job, this is the thing, and then here we are now.
Wow, the universe perfectly aligned for each of you in its own different way. I love each of those stories. Annette, I think there's some congratulations in order for you, by the way. So for Apple Cider Vinegar, they won a Logie Award. Can we give it up for Annette for this?
Congrats.
For the best TV mini-series. Wow, that's so cool. I would love to know, Annette, is there a specific particular scene in Apple Cider Vinegar that really stood out to you specifically?
There's actually a bunch of scenes that I really liked. To be honest, that was my favorite job I've ever had.
It was a fun watch, I will say.
Yeah.
Lots of edits too.
Yeah, and it was written to be interconnected stories all the time, but there was one director and there was just me and my assistant for like 6 months.
Wow.
So we did everything by ourselves and set the tone, chose the music, started the kind of style. So that was pretty incredible. But my favorite scene is in episode 6, where everything is starting to come to a head and you're starting to unravel this person, Belle, who's been lying the whole time. That was fun.
It's such a cool, crazy, out there story. My goodness. And it's kind of involving like a really hard topic of cancer. Did that kind of change as well on how you worked on this project? Because it is kind of an emotional ride.
Well, we tried to be sensitive because it's based on a true story. A woman pretends that she's had like brain cancer, and then she has all these recipes that she publishes in a book that she says will make people healthy, right? And they don't. Yes. And she becomes really successful, and she really uses social media as a big part of that. So we did feel like we had to be very careful about how we presented her in particular, because she's kind of not really a likable character, but on the other hand, there's a reason why she did all these things, which is that she's, got her own issues, right?
Lots of underlining issues that start to slowly unravel, and it's just so well packaged and looks so beautiful from start to finish. Don't be a tough critic. You did incredible. Bella, I would love to talk about Alien Earth. I know there's a lot of Alien fans here. I've actually seen a couple aliens wandering around already. You had some big shoes to fill with this franchise. It's crazy to think it's almost 50 years old, which is insane. Like, time just truly flies by. But I know that there's this huge balance of trying to maintain this existing franchise, also kind of making it your own. And, Ridley Scott just did that justice. And now you've brought on Noah Hawley into the mix, who is a bit different, but very talented, known for his TV series Fargo, which was incredible. How is it adapting him into the mix?
I think the two shows are really similar. I had the privilege of also shooting Fargo. And so I've worked with Noah for a while, and I've worked with that team. It's really a collaborative effort. And my thought is Noah was the perfect person to make this. His storytelling is about corruption, greed. And if you think about Alien, a big part of this is the horror of humanity. And so when we think about Ridley Scott's movie, which is one of my favorite films in general, I remember seeing a film print of it when I was in grad school, and it changed my life. And I think that we honor so much of Ridley, and we studied it, and we really made an homage to it. But I feel like Noah is injected in every single facet of this show. And I think it's so character-driven, and that really, when you think about Fargo, it's every decision is made for you because these characters are so fleshed out. And really, we just tried to embrace the horror, but I think our horror was like a little more psychological, along with all the monsters and all these things that are already in the Alien universe. So it was a privilege and an honor. He really took it and gave it its reverence, and I think really made it his own in a way that's familiar to people that love the franchise.
I actually just rewatched every single Alien this year.
Amazing.
Oh my gosh, everything just looks so good still. But I think as a huge Alien fan too, we just want to keep it going forever and ever and ever. Yeah. So it was so refreshing to just see what your team, brought into the mix, and you made it your own. And I know that Ridley Scott also kind of praised you continuing on the franchise as well, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Burton, The Handmaid's Tale. My goodness. I can't believe how many years we've been going strong with The Handmaid's Tale. And you've been there since the very beginning, which is, it's so cool that, you've been with the team from start to finish. I would love to know kind of like the evolution of when you started with The Handmaid's Tale team from, season 1 to the final season here. Real sad about that.
It's crazy. So it's actually started in 2016, so almost 10 years. We started shooting.
Really been 10 years. That's crazy.
Crazy. Yeah. But I mean, I think in the beginning, it was just getting all the characters exactly right with Margaret Atwood's book and making sure it was more of a neutral palette, except for the handmaids that were more distressed. And but after that, like going season to season 2 and 3 and 4, where they were getting more distressed, more bruised, more broken down, beaten up, especially Elizabeth Moss, June. And then later seasons, it became more hopeful, if you will. So the makeup got slightly warmer. Like I would always show those little nuances with makeup, whereas in the beginning it would be more cool tones, more darker shades, not warm tones.
And colors play kind of a huge symbolic nature in each season. So with wardrobe, did you work pretty closely with the color schemes of the reds and those dark, deep tones of teals?
Yes.
To reflect off of the makeup that you
It
use?
was a huge collaboration, hair, makeup, and costumes. So we really, like, with all the wives, they had the blue, teal dresses, wardrobe. And so it was just kind of like keeping everything in clean, beautiful, simple palettes.
Very well done. You are amazing at bruises, by the way. Really crushed it. Next, I'd like to direct this question to Ralph. You've worked across such range of tones, including one of my favorite series, Tokyo Vice, and then you've also kind of shifted into a completely different genre of tension that happens in The Servant. How do you adjust your editing approach when it's needing to fit a specific, unique rhythm and style of each of the series that you've worked on?
Wow, with both series, they're character driven, but in their own way. So what helped with me on Servant, I started season 2 as an assistant editor. So I kind of got a chance to feel the energy of the show, the style, the rhythm. So by season 3, when I got bumped up to editor, I was kind of already in that space and stuff. We did the show in Philadelphia. Season 2, we started when the pandemic happened. So we were pretty much like our family in the house. We are trapped in this house, for almost 2 to 3 years, literally. And so with Servant, M. Night had a vision where we had a certain pacing, and it was really much about how do we feel the trauma of these characters in this house. They're going through something so harsh, and that allowed the editing to follow the characters. And what Knight did and the showrunners, they would hire such great directors that had such great visions and touch. And when we would come in afterwards with the showrunner, we would still keep their vibe, but also bring in what we really need. And they would bring such great cinematic movements and looks, and that just allowed the actors to do what they do. So it almost made my job a little bit simpler to just let you give me the footage, do the work, and then I'm able to, navigate. But of course, with anything, we got to change it up a lot. But then I'm wrapping up Servant, starting up Tokyo Vice, and that's in Japanese. And it was kind of full circle where after college, I lived in Japan for a year. So when I was able to interview for the job, I said, I don't speak as much Japanese anymore, but I get the culture. I understand and stuff. And in that show, we're following almost 4 different points of views. And now, how do I take all these characters and these storylines that are crossing over and make it all make sense? So it's literally, again, all right, now pacing. We need to follow the Yakuza, the reporters, Samantha and her girls and stuff, and keep that going. So I think, again, that allowed, all right, we have 4 POVs, we got to keep this thing moving and stuff. There's a police raid or something more emotional, we have to keep our audience engaged. And so I really felt like having all those points of views allowed us to push the story and the style and just follow that story how it is.
Between those 2 projects, which one would you say was more difficult for you? Tokyo Vice or The Servant?
Oh man, it's tough. It's interesting. They both had their own different perspective, but Tokyo Vice in a way where the language barrier didn't bother me too much, I could say. So 90% Japanese show, and we would get our footage with dubs on it. So all my dailies had dubs, so I was able to kind of follow that. But after a while, I just stopped reading the dubs because we're cutting up the footage, so nothing is making sense anymore. So now it's just emotions. How do I feel? So now it's really, what are the actors giving me by face? I might not understand the word you're saying, or how do I rearrange your dialogue in a sense, but the energy and really just studying their body language and their facial expressions. And fortunately, I had an assistant who was Japanese, so anytime I said, does this make grammatical error? Does this make sense? She would come in and let me know. But yeah, that was definitely a little bit challenging, rearranging scenes and making things out of order and stuff. Yeah.
Do you think it would have been different too if you didn't have that experience firsthand of actually being in that location, specifically in Japan, and being really immersed inside of it?
Yeah, I felt like that. My experience very much helped because one storyline we have is about the hostess girls, which is not a common thing people know outside of Japan. And it allowed me to sympathize with those characters because I know how tough it is for them, and even how everything has to be done a certain way. And as a gaijin or foreigner that Jake had to deal with, you can feel the tension of the isms that he would have to deal with and stuff. And my experience allowed me to, kind of shape those moments together.
Yeah, nothing better than firsthand experience. Spencer, you've worked on a variety of different projects where you get the opportunity to work with different musical worlds, from the heavy metal inspired action of SurrealEstate, which I was definitely banging my head to some of the music in that. I loved it, to the experimental horror textures of Hell Motel, as well as the cinematic action of Hot Wheels Racerverse, which we actually saw on the screen too, which is really cool. How do you approach finding a unique musical identity for each of those shows that you work on?
I see music less as an emotional tool and more as a way to paint the images beyond what's on the screen. So I'm always trying to evoke the audience's imagination separate from what they're seeing. So on SurrealEstate, since it's a monster of the week show and every house is very different, can we not just see a house, can we see the world that this ghost lives in? Can we paint their life in 45 minutes so that by the end the audience cares about them? So I'm using folk instruments, I'm using literal household sounds, bathtubs and clocks, microwaves to sort of create a sense of being trapped inside of this house, and also capturing cultures and things. With Hell Motel, it's about creating claustrophobia. So can you sound like you're trapped inside of a box? And so for that, it was breathing, like literal exasperated breaths and bee noises with your mouth and things like that to sort of create a horror that I've never really heard before. One of the other ways was taking a violin and just pulling it and stretching it for like 3 times what the length of the notes and putting that through different effects and pedals, and it sounded like a banshee scream. So things like that to kind of just see what can I do to just make the audience terrified in a way that we've never heard before, and using elements that I kind of have on me to see what we can do with that. So one of the things was an exasperated breath, which just was terrifying, and it worked great in a lot of what we needed. And then for Hot Wheels, it's we get to play in Marvel and Star Wars and Disney, so tapping into the worlds that we already know with that. And specifically for the Star Wars ones, it's, you got to write John Williams type music, but I wanted to do it in my own way, which usually means making it a little bit more metal. So finding a way to kind of just give it that extra bit of just kind of grungy edge to it kind of thing. Yeah.
Is there a genre that you kind of favor or that you just kind of listen to in your free time?
I mean, I like to joke it's metal, pagan folk, musical theater. It's sort of it's a weird blend of all 3 of those things.
I love that. I just want to open this back up to everyone again. Looking back at your recent work, is there a specific sequence that stands out particularly as very rewarding or meaningful to you, and why? Shall we start with Bella?
I'll start. For me, my greatest honor was getting to shoot the chest burster scene in Alien Earth. And that's because I remember as a child, it haunted me. And even as I watched the movie, I watched it last month, it's still the thing to me that is so uniquely alien. And so getting to do that again for the series and really kind of trying to go shot for shot, but also making it something that's ours and its own and it's unique, and there's children there this time, you know, and the horror of being a child and seeing something like that is what I experienced as a child watching the movie for the first time. And so trying to like dive into that perspective and remember what it was like to watch it and then how to put that into the visual language for the show was such an honor.
Getting over your fears in your adult life. It's like when I met Candyman for the first time. I was like, I can finally look in the mirror again. Annette? Yes, is there a specific favorite scene that you worked on throughout your career?
Well, I've been fortunate. I've done a lot of different things. One of my favorite shows that I worked on was Pam and Tommy. And there's a scene where she first meets Tommy at the beginning. I think it's in episode 2. Anyway, it's very kind of creative, and there's lots of slow-mo, and her and Tommy are going crazy, but they don't really have sex. And anyway, that was a really fun scene. It's a great show. Yeah.
I love that. Nice and quirky.
I could go next. I'm thinking about this would be honestly one of the final scenes of season 2, Tokyo Vice episode 10. This is when our character Sato, who was underling Yakuza character, who now is going through his ascension ceremony to be a head leader, and I remember the pilot, which Michael Mann did. I'm like, yeah, Michael Mann, and they have the exact same ceremony where Sato is an underling, and now I'm like, great, I gotta follow whatever Michael Mann did, 18 episodes later and stuff, but how do I make it my own and things? And I remember with that scene, they shot it exactly how it would be done in real life. It takes about 30 to 45 minutes with the actual ceremony, the long speech, and everything, from the tea parts and every single thing, all in real time. So now I have all these dailies, and how do I make this 3 minutes and make it make sense and stuff? So I would watch, how did Michael Mann do it? I'm like, of course, they shot it differently. It was all handheld and choppy and things, but our style has kind of changed by then. And it's one of those things where I was like, all right, I got to block you out, and now this is my version of this piece. And I remember, of course, they literally did a whole Yakuza ceremony, so it was not scripted, not dubbed, so I'm literally having to guess what's happening and stuff like that, going back. But it was a thing where once I was able to get everything together and find the key moments that I wanted our audience to connect with and put together, and I remember I spent it was one thing, if I got those footage, I'm like, yeah, I'm putting that to the side. I'm not touching it. But once I literally focused on that for about a week and it all came together, it just felt really good to see now this character ascend and become who he was supposed to be in our show.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one of my highlights of watching that series. It's an incredibly moving scene. That's what they work up to becoming, essentially. And seeing all the tattoos, I'm like, oh, I'm out there. I don't think I could get that many full body cover up. But it looked cool. But yeah, what a large amount of pressure on your shoulders have to do that under 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's like, great.
No big deal, I got this. Burton, is there a specific project that stands out for you in the makeup world?
I think Handmaid's Tale, really. I mean, I've done a lot of shows, but I think Handmaid's Tale just stands out. And it's because I spent so much time on it, 6 seasons, almost 10 years. It was just a lot. It was a lot. And to work with Elizabeth Moss was pretty cool. She's been really cool. Yeah, total pro. And just to be with her going through the ups and downs of the show and just being there for everybody. It's been amazing.
And I'm sure the team grew season to season as the show got bigger and bigger.
Well, that's a huge part of it too. It's not just me, my team who are amazing. And just growing and growing. By the end, there was 10 or 15 artists.
Yeah, and watching even Elizabeth Moss, her career just really blew up. I mean, it was really cool to watch and see her growth in the industry and what that show did to her. Of course, the makeup had a huge part into the mix as well. You really crushed it with her character.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's been great. It's been really cool.
Spencer, is there a moment in the composing world for you?
I mean, I love everything I've done, but asterisks. writing Star Wars is kind of the best thing, coolest thing you can do. So being able to work in that world was pretty incredible. I mean, I was joking with my wife. It's like working on Hot Wheels was basically being 15 every day. Just being able to just like have a fun time writing stuff for Iron Man, writing stuff for Captain America, writing stuff for Darth Vader, writing stuff for Moana. It's just awesome. So that's probably the one.
Do you have a favorite Marvel character that you grew up just obsessed with?
I just love Captain America. He's a bit of a dweeb, but I love that he's a bit of a dweeb. He just he's awesome.
I love that. Well, really cool to see all those amazing projects you've worked on, and just really excited to see new memories that each of you will create in the future as well. Now, I want to direct my next question to Annette. You have an upcoming film that you're working on called Shiver that's not quite finished yet. How does your approach change when you're working on a film versus a miniseries? And did you learn anything in the process of making Apple Cider Vinegar, that miniseries, that you're kind of taking with you and approaching it in the same direction, in the same way for this specific film?
I think for me, I approach them all the same way in a sense. I mean, they're obviously very different, but I mostly care about the story and the character development. So even though it's a film and it's got bigger scope and, you know, it's more cinematic and things like that, ultimately you have to care about the people. So I think that's the most important aspect of it. But I did learn a lot about visual effects, which I've never had much to do with before. So that was really
Wow, visual effects. Do tell us a skill that you learned.
Well, I learned that you can do anything.
Yeah.
But actually, we did a lot of AI visual effects just for temp stuff, and that was really funny because sometimes they'd work out perfectly, and other times we'd have like a werewolf coming out of someone's butt.
I love that. So much that you can do in the VFX world. I love that. So maybe you'll be in VFX at some point in your career as well, you know? Transition over. You never know. Our next panel, right? I'll be introducing you in a different light.
It'll be the AI visual effects.
AI visual effects, exactly. Bella, in the twisted tale of Amanda Knox, the story is deeply personal and subjective. For those of you who remember this real-life story that happened back initially in 2009 when Amanda Knox and her boyfriend were convicted of murdering her roommate at the time, this kind of unravels that storyline. How did you use camera techniques to guide the audience's empathy, as well as trying to maintain not making it so that there's a specific perspective that a person would have to feel while watching it through and through?
The show is so amazing because KJ Steinberg really made it, in its essence, about bias and how bias is formed and how this came to be. And really what it meant was every character, it was about where they were when it happened, but it was also about their life before that and how that had affected them to be in this position and to handle the situation as they handled it. And so that really interested me because we followed a lot of different perspectives, not only Amanda Knox, but Raffaele Sollecito and her prosecutor and her parents and his parents. And for me, it meant that every episode, it was really subjective. And really the camera had to show the world as that character went through the situation. And so I had the privilege of, I'd shot 5 and 6, and at the end of 5, spoiler, they get found guilty, and we shot it from Raffaele Sollecito's perspective. And then I had the privilege of, for episode 6, shooting the exact same moment in time, but from Amanda Knox's perspective. And I really tried to think about the character and where they were at that time and what had shaped them into that moment. And I shot them completely different. Amanda Knox's was like a built by my grips, custom Snorri cam. So we were really with her in this overwhelming panic, where Raffaele was a little bit more a +1 to his own trial. So very different ways and outlooks. And I think that it was a really great lesson in subjectivity and how to apply that to camera and visual language.
Wow, so you actually built a custom camera piece for this. Can you talk a little bit about that camera that you just mentioned?
Yeah, so I think everyone kind of knows what a Storycam is. Think Requiem for a Dream. Yeah. Oh, so it's a camera that's essentially attached to an actor. You can think like Jamiroquai music video as well. And my director was like, I don't want it to be like Jamiroquai. And I said, copy you. So I did a lot of testing, and I found out that I needed something more stable. I needed to get close to her. I wanted it to feel claustrophobic, but I wanted to be on a wide lens and see the officers carrying her from the trial to her cell and be with her and make you be with her as she's doing that. So my grips and I spent hours and days with me and the rig, really making sure that it's getting what we want to get, but also it doesn't limit her from falling and, really being able to be in that moment. So Grace Van Patten put that rig on. I mean, it must have been like a 35, 40-pound rig, and she was falling all over the place. But we really kind of worked together as a team to, ensure that the feeling was right and that Grace could also do her best work. So that was really interesting. And my grips are fantastic. Yes.
Visually, it truly looks stunning. So I love the fact, though, that you really went hands-on with this one and built the whole camera setup. That's so cool. Yeah. 35 pounds. That's not so bad, right? Just kidding. Definitely built some new muscles, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Just
super down, though. She's the best.
I love that. Burton, in The Handmaid's Tale, it often uses subtle visual cues to communicate character states or emotional shifts. Can you share some examples, for instance, in different key scenes that you really needed to highlight through makeup visually?
Well, the handmaids, let's say, were very distressed, like dark under eye circles. They're obviously tormented. They're not sleeping. They're abused, so they have to look the part. Like they're not, red in the eyes, really distressed, dark circles, paled out, pale lips. Like nobody would be allowed lip balm or anything, because that's it.
I did see some cracked lips. Great job with that.
So they had to say it's like taking the lip balm away, because they, everybody's got doing the lip balm all day.
Yeah.
So just keeping them and being me and my team, like having a watchful eye to make sure everybody stays in their part throughout, so it doesn't veer off some other way, so they don't look right.
And then location-wise, I know that we kind of bop around to different locations. Some seasons, we are in Gilead. Other seasons, we're actually transitioning into Canada and then eventually even into Alaska. Does the environment kind of play a role as well in the makeup?
It does. And and actually in a good way, and then obviously in a bad way, because we'd be working 15, 18 hours, minus 20 degrees. So it's like, you don't want the makeup to start cracking. So it can be really tough. The elements are tough when you're out there,
Yeah, outdoor versus indoor weather as well. Yeah. If it's raining, I can't imagine for hair specifically, even what you're having to go through, probably sticking to the makeup as well, taking some of that off.
Well, that's where collaboration becomes really important too. Hair, makeup, and costumes were quite tight.
Was there one specific moment where you're like, oh, I don't know if I can get this makeup right? This is really tough.
There's a lot of those. But you just got to keep plugging away and maybe reshooting sometimes.
You're talented. You can do it no matter what. I just need you in my life every morning. Burton, help me. Of course, not the black eye look, but, anything but that. I'm sure you can do wonders with a nice full glammed out look as well. Ralph, I'd love to hear about your upcoming project, The Beast in Me, which releases next month on Netflix. Are there particular sequences or moments in the series that you're excited for audiences to experience where the editing really just drives the tension or the emotion?
Yeah, it's interesting without giving spoilers.
I know. This one's not out yet, so maybe we'll get a little something, but not too much.
Honestly, so it stars Claire Danes and Matthew Rice, who I've been watching, forever.
Pretty stacked cast.
Yeah, literally. So Claire Danes plays Aggie, who is a recluse author mourning the loss of her son, and new neighbor pops up, was played by Matthew Niles, who's this billionaire who's everyone's suspicious about something that happened to his wife. His wife disappeared. There's something sus about him, and so there begins a cat and mouse game between both of them where she wants to write a story on him and whether or not did he do it, don't do it. So having scenes with them two is like, whoa. You know, you have these two amazing actors where there's one particular moment where he takes her up to one of his skyscrapers that is still being built, and the whole time Aggie is like, will he push me, or won't he? And during their whole conversation, it's really all about the conversation happening behind, the subtext of their conversation. So literally, that was one of the moments where I was able to play Matthew's looks, his eyes, and then Claire would just give just great little things of her fear and how, you know, she might stutter a word, or, you know, there's these moments where you're like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? And I just really love seeing them navigate, you know, that scene together and allowing me to shape and their performance. And one thing, what I love about those actors is they give editors great material where I'm able to pace up or down their material, and between different takes, they can give me subtle changes and stuff, which really allows me to bring any tension or fear, or let's say now we want a character to be stronger versus weaker, then that material was there with those actors. So I'm really excited for everyone to see these two powerhouse actors come together with their little cat and mouse game, mask on, mask off, and stuff. Yep.
I'm so excited to see those. As far as your approach as well, coming from Tokyo Vice and The Servant, how did you approach this specific project? Was it completely different or kind of similar in that respect?
I feel almost sometimes always feels similar. It's like, all right, I have my story, my characters, and let's see what the footage has. Honestly, but honestly, I was excited for this one, especially with the showrunner Howard Gordon, and you know, from the 24 Homeland days. And honestly, now working in this industry, it's just amazing getting to work with these people I've watched since I was a kid, and now I'm getting to collaborate with them and see how they work and their method. And I feel that's what I pull out of all my projects, whether I was with M. Night or even now, you know, Howard Gordon and things. When we're in an edit room together, seeing what they see and just taking that. So it's constantly film school, even though I'm out of film school, and I would just apply that. I find myself applying those things into my next projects and how I approach shaping the different characters.
Yeah, it's really cool to see everything come full circle for you. Really lovely. Spencer, for SurrealEstate, you get to introduce the character of Death. How did you craft a sound that felt timeless and entirely unique to her personality in the show?
I mean, Death, the personification of Death might be humanity's oldest character. Like, I think it might, like, going back.
Yeah, I think so.
And our version of Death is not too dissimilar to the Sandman or Discworld, where she's very caring, she's comforting. I kind of like to see her kind of like a social worker. Like, she comes in and you're not having a good time, and she says, "You're good. You're going to be all right." So kind of going back to what I said earlier, where I like to paint an image beyond, sort of evoke the imagination of the audience in a different way. I wanted the music to feel kind of like a gust of wind blowing in a window that blows out a candle, gives you a hug, and says, "Hey there, I get it. You'll be fine. Come with me." And so the music is very wind-like, and I even used thunderclaps and eagle wings to kind of create this sense of kind of flying in, and it's that mixed with Celeste and woodwind textures to just create this gust of wind kind of feeling, because no one's done that before, and I wanted that version of Death is the Death that I want. And so there was sort of very much sort of trying to create, like, okay, well, if that was me, how would I want to go? So I was trying to find that sort of element of painting that image, and that's the image that I would hope to take me off to. So yeah.
I love your interpretation of Death as a social worker as well. Quite interesting. I would never have thought the social worker.
We all kind of need a social worker at the end, don't we?
Yeah. For the next question, I'd like to open this back up again to the panel. What is a piece of advice that you would give someone who's starting out in your field, or a creative who wants to bring their own vision to life in a film or a television series? Who would like? Bella, you've been great starting us off. Please.
Great. Love that. Well, only because I feel really passionate about this. So I'll go with the first half, which is I'm only where I am in my career because I was so grateful and honored to work with people who have been in our industry for a very long time and were willing to take on someone like me and teach me the ways and show me what it is to be a filmmaker. And so I think my biggest piece of advice to anyone trying to do anything in this industry is find a mentor. And really, by find a mentor, I mean really invest in that person and listen what they have to say and take that with you at all times and understand that at every point of your career, they're with you in every job. And I had that mentor with an operator named Mitch Dubin, who I think is probably the most incredible operator to walk the earth. And I know it's a big saying, but he really showed me what it was to be a storyteller and a leader, and how to treat your team, and how to be on set and command respect, but also give respect. So I think if you can find someone who you respect to teach you those ways, I think that's the most valuable thing in this industry.
I love that. Mentorship is so huge, and it sounds like you found the perfect match.
Yeah, and I think don't be afraid to ask. That's my big
You
thing.
don't get what you don't ask for, as I always say.
Yeah.
Favorite saying. Burton, makeup industry, quite competitive. What advice do you have to give to...
Super competitive. Yeah, I mean, I agree with Bella 100%. Finding really, really great mentors, like having that. And always have good people around you, whether you're a team, just find those good people and keep them tight, because chances are they're going to follow you through and you're going to have some of those same people. So just always have good people with you and know who they are, and they'll follow you.
Yeah.
And you'll get the great work out of them too.
Yeah.
Like they'll be, yeah.
Well, I'm assuming too, at the start of your career, you probably didn't take on the most biggest, like, dream jobs of your career. And I know a lot of my friends who are in the makeup world, they took kind of these crappier jobs, but because they did that, they were able to work themselves up into the industry, which is, you know, what I always say, if it's not the most exciting job, you should probably still take it. You never know what will happen or what will become of that situation.
You don't know who you're going to meet on all of those jobs.
Yeah.
Find the good people and stick with them. Keep them in your world.
Yes, in your circle. And it's a small industry.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy how small this circle is. Ralph, how about you?
Funny, picking back off what you just said, you know, even as an editor, it's one thing where I tell editors, cut everything you can. Doesn't matter what, cut, because you will learn so much, and you'll find ways to use what you learn on the most random, you know, indie project you can find, and you'll be able to take that. And honestly, it's such a hard industry at the same time, so got to persevere, can't quit and stuff. You're not gonna make it tomorrow and things. It's a grind, and honestly, it really is. You know, it's honestly, it's persevering through this, and those relationships. Like you said, it's a very small industry and stuff. So every job matters in a way. You know, you might think it's the smallest thing, but there is somebody there that full circle you might, you know, connect with years later or anything like that. So just really stick to it and your passion, and just don't be afraid. Do not be afraid, and try. Ask questions, find a mentor, get past that comfort zone, and really push for your passion and what you want to do.
Even, you know, Bella, going back to you working on Fargo with Noah, I mean, it sounds like you are lucky enough to work with the same kind of team on newer projects.
Yeah, Noah was the person that really gave me the shift in my career that, you know, I was an operator on season 4, and season 4 he bumped me up, and he believed in me, and that belief was what I needed to know that I could do hard things. And being with that team, it's like, that's what it's like to have collaboration, you know, to work with all these people together and try and make something great together with all of the experience that you have. But just one more thing, which is, I'm sure everyone has the same thing. You can track, if you think about it, you can track your whole career back to one job. And I think that's the most special thing ever. And so I really think it's not always about the job, it's about the experience. That's just my one note on that. But yeah.
No, I love that. It's like, you know, if we all took a road trip and left at the same time, but took our own path to get to the same location, we'd all get there differently, but we'd all still end up there, you know, some way. Spencer, how about you?
Yeah, when it comes to music, I always like to tell the younger people, don't worry too much about finding your sound. You'll kind of figure it out. Like you'll kind of find who you are because music is so elusive and what our influences are. But beyond that, I would also add like work on projects that inspire you to write cool things and with people that are just awesome to work with. Like we all got into this job because we don't want to get real jobs. We want to play every day, and working with people that allow you to do that, that want you to do that, is kind of makes the job more fun. But then also beyond that, take bold swings, take huge swings that make them go, that's why I hired you and that's why I want you on this thing. Like on SurrealEstate, the first bit of music I sent in had Irish instruments because I wanted to paint the other world, and I thought I was gonna be fired the next day, and they loved it. They thought it was so cool because that's a big swing, right? So I think finding people that allow you to take those big swings then lets you do those things that hopefully will help you find the sound that you want to do.
I mean, listening to you talk about how you're coming up with your interpretations of certain things and just the microwave setting of closing and what it sounds like, or claustrophobia and things like that. It's like you're a big kid. It sounds like so much fun. I've never thought I wanted to be a composer, but after listening to you, maybe I need to change my line of work. I don't know, Spencer. You make it sound so fun.
Yay.
Annette, how about you?
Well, I would say everything that these guys have already said, and probably not as well, but I would also stress, do not give up. Persist, persist, persist. Keep going, keep asking people. Like I started my career in Australia and it's a lot smaller than here, but every time you meet someone, it could be someone useful. So don't think it's weird to follow up with them, or just keep going.
We may have somebody who will be going into visual effects. I don't know. VFX. I don't know. If there's somebody out there.
I don't want to be a visual effects.
Maybe not. Well, we have just a little bit of time for a couple questions. So I have a mic here. Raise your hand if you would like to ask our panelists any questions that you may have in the industry. Well, got one over there.
Thank you. I've been enjoying the panel. So I feel like a lot of great shows and movies are iconic beyond just the characters and the writing, sort of the music and the aesthetic. And I'm curious, in each of your disciplines, what is a mechanism for you where you create that kind of iconic feel? Because I feel like it often comes down to almost below the radar things that just sort of trickle up and you're like, oh wow, when you see a scene, you know where it's from.
I'll go for that. As doing some franchises, I suppose, and movies that like Fargo, where I, love Fargo, and taking on a show like Fargo and trying to make something that people enjoy is a daunting task. But I think being a student, most of all, I mean, I can't tell you how much I watch, consume, study, and really break down things. And I also think, all great filmmakers are very different, but the ones I love have rules. And when you make rules and you break them, that's when things become impactful. So I would say never being too scared to box yourself in, but also if you create that structure for yourself, you can really affect the audience with contrast, what the world looks like, and then when it shifts, what that looks like. So I would say just being very aware of the material, but also understanding how you can navigate tone, atmosphere, and that's where like these people come in handy, right? Because they make it feel big. I mean, I don't know if you've ever watched a movie without score or first edit. It's very different. They take what we give them and make it big, but we have to give them something to play off to be able to kind of tonally be able to shift it to what is going to affect the audience.
Yeah, I like what you said about breaking the rules. I remember in school we had Don Cambert, great editor, and that's one of the things, learn the rules and then break the rules and stuff. And that is so key, in what we do. And like you said, watching everything. My partner can know there's always watching TV. I'm always watching something. There's always, even when I'm editing, if I'm in a mode on a show or whatever, as I'm watching, I'm literally studying what's happening in the back of my mind. Oh, how did they navigate that scene? How did they take that? Or even a classic film, it's, how did they do those camera moves? And it's constantly studying and immersing yourself in that, in that project just to be able to give that feel and kind of honor, the craft in a sense.
Even Spencer, you were kind of talking about, the music you were composing and how you thought you were going to lose your job. I mean, there's that sense of how many times have you gone to work and you're like, yeah, I'm going to lose my job today.
Oh, I think it's going to happen all the time because I take big swings. A lot of the iconicism from music, I think, is in taking those big swings. I joke that I see a lot of the films I do and shows I do like fantasy, where I try to create a world. I want to build a world in the music. So that allows for the immersion of the audience. People always talk about with music as like you don't want to notice that it's there, right? That's always the big thing people say about music is I don't want to know that it's there. I disagree. I think the best scores are the scores that feel like they're part of that world. So it's just like the costumes, just like the sets, just like the makeup. It all feels like you're in the world. So I'll take all those things in. And it's like, okay, well, they're using like lots of reds. What does that mean on a musical lens? If it's a lot of close-ups, what does that mean musically? That way I can capture that same world in the music. Hell Motel is a very claustrophobic kind of show, and I didn't want to do horror music. So I thought about the show more like a thriller than a horror show. So I was like, what would David Fincher do? What would that kind of 90s world be like? But my interpretation of that, which was a voice and banshees and more folkloric type of things to create a sense that you're trapped. And so that's where the voice idea kind of came from, was how can I create a sense of just being in a box? And so just create that world, because the characters are in a hotel for 8 episodes and they don't get to go anywhere. So how can we feel a sense of you just want to strangle the person beside you? Exasperating voices will do that. So that was sort of that idea, that way it matches what's on the screen emotionally, but it creates something else that then the audience feels that they're immersed inside of a different kind of a world.
Love that. Do we have another question? Oh.
So I'm getting into films, and I like what you said about the mentor. So why do you think your mentors chose you?
I'll go again first. Only because I don't know how old you are.
13.
They're 13. I started in the industry when I was 16 years old, really young. I think I knew that it was my place. And I've had many mentors, but I think eagerness, willingness to listen, attentiveness, people want to work with people who care, and I think that I see that in people, and sometimes I'm the first one to offer my advice and offer whatever I can, because, if you're so young and you're passionate about movies, you're probably right for this industry. And I just know that being a young person, you have a different mind than we do. You're way more imaginative, more open, less restricted. And I think smart people in our industry want a young perspective like that, because you're the next step into our industry. So I really think just, like I said, asking and showing your interest and keep learning, so that you can go to those people and be like, I watched this movie and I really like this, and I wonder what you think about it. And so I think just doing what you're doing, showing up to things like this, it's really great stuff. Yeah.
What would you have done, Bella, if you'd gone back in time and started at 13 instead of 16? 13-year-old Bella.
It's a good question. I feel like I wish I watched a lot of movies. I don't know what you want to do in our industry, but taking pictures, things that kind of make you a student of all the things that are our world. I think anything you do, when I'm not working, I have the rule for myself that I need to keep learning. I need to watch movies or take pictures or listen to great soundtracks that will inspire mood and tone. Meet people like-minded, make movies, take your iPhone, go do whatever you can. Those people are going to grow up with you to probably be on a panel like this with you. So I think if you can meet more people like you, there wasn't a lot with me. I didn't have a lot of friends that were trying to be filmmakers. So if you can find that group, I think that would be really great.
The only thing that I wanted to add to that, because Bella's answered it perfectly, is be a nerd. Like every mentor I had loved that I was a nerd about film, and I now mentor, and I hire my assistants because they're nerds in the way that I'm a nerd, and then just embrace who you are. I have a stutter, and one of my mentees also has one, and I work with her because I just saw a like-minded person, and we can talk about that also, about what that means. So embrace every aspect about who you are also, and don't be afraid of who you are.
How do you let yourself know that your project is done? Because my issue is constantly editing and rewatching and then being like, oh, I can move this here or do this there. And then I end up editing for an extra, let's say, 4 days after a project should have only taken me like 2.5 or something like that.
Same way. I'm gonna work extra hours. I don't clock my overtime. I am constantly redoing, trying something new, having an alt. But ultimately, at some point, you have to stop and turn it in, and I'll be honest.
That is all the time we have, unfortunately, for today. I just want to give a huge thank you to our panelists, Annette, Bella, Burton, Ralph, Spencer. Thank you for being here with all of us in New York. And I also want to just give a huge shout out and thank you to New York Comic Con for putting this panel together, as well as Impact 24 for organizing this. And of course, to all of you for joining us in this special dialogue on these talented individuals. Thank you again. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and good luck to our panelists on their future endeavors.